Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another small little block for the Mania 4K World Cup 2025 quarterfinals. Here we have one of the headliner matches, seed number 1 China versus seed number 8 Canada in the winners bracket. My name is Dynascape, and with me today or night is the shine in my sun, the apple of my eye, everyone's favorite sun apple, my dastardly duo. How are we feeling?
Hello, my dearest Dynascape. I'm doing really well. It is later for me, so it is nice, but I'm excited to see China versus Canada since this is a match that I've been really excited for. I have not seen China play yet, so this will be my first time.
Yeah, I haven't seen China play yet either, but what's funny is that at least I think this is either one of the first times, if not the first time, that there are two teams that we covered are fighting in one of these matches that we're commentating in. If you guys didn't know, Sonapple and I, along with the Case and Normflyer, do the MWC recaps every week. So if you guys are interested in that, do make sure to check that out because we put a lot of effort into it, and I think you like the one that's coming out.
Alright, sorry about that. My mic seemed to have some sort of issue. But yeah, we put a lot of effort into it. I believe the last one for Round of 16 came out just recently, so be sure to watch that. But with that being said, it's looking like bans and protects are happening. I'm not too sure what China is really going to pick because I think they have a lot of options here. They're really strong on the rights, but Canada has been doing really well so far in the tournament on that as well.
Yeah, I would say, and they do end up opting to protect for LN1. I do think that is the right choice. Canada is probably the strongest when it comes to rice, and they also scale very well when it comes to that. Not too far behind China in terms of how they scored on the round of 16. Obviously, with this little quarterfinals bump, we'll have to see how each of them do. But Sawdust Inhaler, Canada's team captain, going to come out with the Planet Shaper Protect. So that's actually an LN3 Protect. We have double LN Protect, something you don't see very often. Now we get to see each of their bands.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see. I feel like I hardly ever see it. And also a Hybrid 3 band coming out. I think it's been pretty popular in the tournament so far, that this specific Hybrid 3, maybe it's just way too technical for some of these teams, especially in this quarterfinal stage where accuracy matters so much. And as a result, it's been banned. I feel like instead of a LN, a lot of people have been opting to ban the Hybrid 3, which sort of makes sense. But I am interested in what China's banning. They did protect LN, so I'd assume a Rice, and it looks like it's Rice 4. Maybe not wanting to opt for that really high accuracy game that a lot of teams have been playing in it.
Yeah, I think you are correct in saying that Hybrid 3, I think we have seen a lot of ban representation. Very technical. Hybrid 3 throughout this tournament has been a very tricky slot for people to deal with, and China opting for that core jack ban means that we aren't going to see any of that. Some absolutely disgusting scores throughout this weekend from not unexpected teams, but from not top teams. A lot of teams just have a very strong core jack core, it seems, and China, hoping Canada isn't one of those, doesn't want to really deal with it. So they're going to get first pick now. Reminder that they did protect an LN and ban a Rice. So does that mean they're going to go with an LN? Yes, it does. They're going straight for Canada's Protect Sun Apple.
That is crazy. I don't know how Canada is feeling at this point. I think LN3 is pretty interesting. It's pretty awkward, I'd say. I think a lot of teams have been really struggling on this one, taking a lot of misses. I know in the last match that I watched, basically the whole lobby was struggling. But this is a winner's bracket match, so I am interested to see how well these players are going to be able to play, since I know China themselves are really good at keeping combo.
Yeah, this is quite wildcardy. You know, there are a lot of weirder formations on this map. Some of them very bursty as well. So I think if China can secure this map in particular, it'll bode well, not necessarily and translate really well into some of the other islands, but I think for some of the hybrids is what I'm really looking at. And especially the fact that Canada had banned Hybrid 3, if China's able to take this point convincingly, Hybrid 1 and 2 might be really good options, and of course their Protect in LN1. So China gonna field Parasol Tree, Wom, and their team captain, Foa Melt 1. Canada gonna have their own captain as well, Sawdust and Haler. The man 234 Tong, one name I will not be saying in its entirety for the entirety of the match. Just gonna refer to them as Tonk, and they're gonna have Verdun as their third slot as well.
Yeah, I do wonder if it was a part of China's game plan to pick LN3 from the start, and that is why they picked it even though it was Canada's Protect. Because very often I feel, especially on first points, players or teams just refuse to pick a opponent's ban. And I mean, it's been happening more often than I think expected in this tournament, but I think as a first pick is very bold.
Bold indeed. But to be fair, China definitely one of the best performers on LNs from last week. If you take a look at LN3 from last week, anti-safety zone, they only would have lost out to United States. Granted, not a lot of teams played it, but definitely one of their strongest kind of categories in that the wild cardy slot for LN. So some good confidence going in from China, especially when you account for the fact that they picked their own opponent's Protect. Gotta see how this turns out.
Yeah, and it definitely does have to turn out pretty well for China since you do not want to be down a breakpoint against Canada at this moment. I feel like these teams are pretty, not necessarily too similar in terms of their scores in the last round, but I mean, the difficulty has stepped up enough, and I think Canada really scales in this later game as we go further and further.
Yeah, and pretty good start as the little shields start to come in. Tonk not being able to hang that well, but we'll have to see how the rest of the map pans out for them. It starts to get a little bit faster now, and with this BPM increase, everyone seems to be doing just fine. Very dense section, Tonk first to miss, and a great one at that.
Yeah, it is traded out by Wolin, but I mean, as you said, Tonk's miss is very devastating. Wolin only took a bit of an accuracy drop, whereas Tonk seemed to take a lot of 200s as well as a few 50s, and this score lead has increased to around 7k. This will most likely stay around the same range unless a very big thing happens to Canada. I would suspect a few 200s will increase it slightly, but I don't think that'll be really too big.
First and second positions for China and Canada, at least on the side of China, it's looking great. 299.8, one with that one miss, still at a 99.6 in contrast to the man Tonk's 2 misses and 99.2. Means that China has a quite comfortable lead. Going to need multiple drops here as we get into this back half for Canada to make any semblance of a comeback.
Yeah, and Verdun taking a break at this point is kind of saying, keep in mind this last quarter of the map is not really too difficult, and at the 60k point lead, it's going to be very hard for Canada to come back from. Luckily, this is China's pick, so it isn't too big of a deal, but I mean, losing your Protect by 20k points is kind of absurd, kind of devastating, especially as a first pick.
Definitely devastating. I mean, you gotta think, this was Canada's Protect. This is with the map that they felt most comfortable beating China on, and to see it pan out like this with China having a 20,000 point win, the map's gonna wind down, but there is no more difficulty left. What a strong start from China. We called it Aura, and Aura it was, as they pull off the greatest of power moves, winning on Canada's Protect on their first pick.
Yeah, also it is funny to see Parasol Tree and Full Melt having very similar scores, just showing that this team has a really strong core since they are both top scoring in the lobby with it.
And as we size up the scores, 2v1SSs from Parasol and Melt, 350s from one, but that is so disgusting of a team score. 990 average on a map like this is very much insane. Sawdust Inhaler, great score as well with a 992, but it just was not enough. Verdun and Tonk having a couple misses leading to Canada losing again by about 20,000 points. And Canada's up next, but they've got to be scrambling. They still have to be reeling from a hit like this.
Yeah, Dizzle's crazy looking at Williams' score. I mean, they took 350s, but that was all in one section. So I can't imagine how their LN1 or LN2 is going to be, considering those two are a bit easier than LN3 is in terms of like its density and being able to combo it. But now it's Canada's pick. I'm would assume that we'd probably go to Rice. Which type of rice, it is still up in the air. I would most likely see something more simple. Maybe you want to go for the speed aspect. I know Canada's been very, very comfortable on this rice one throughout the tournament, so I would probably say that's a pretty good option for them.
They do seem like good options. I know they had the rice for ban from China. I want to say Canada might want to delve into rice sooner rather than later because on the Ellens at least, China just has such a good core in Boa Melt and Warm and Parasol Tree as well. I mean, those three, if they didn't have that miss, it probably would have been a triple 990k, which is not something a lot of teams could say that they have on Planet Shaper. And yes, they are going to go for Rice 3. They're going to go for Romanesque Romancia. This is a good pick. I think this is a good starter pick for them just because it's the stamina pick. Maybe get a little warmed up and hope that they can out-ratio the 3 Chinese players that they have up. And I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I definitely do. I believe that this map is a bit more simpler compared to the rest of the maps in pool, so definitely dipping your toes into the rice pool in general. I think Canada probably feels very comfortable in this, as well as if China do take a break, it can swing the lead. I think that's something that Canada kind of has to rely on, considering how good China is just overall. Though keep in mind, this is 3 minutes and 20 seconds, so I mean, there's a lot of time for that to happen.
Exactly, a lot of time to make up for if you fall a little bit in combo. But hopefully, if this is Canada's pick, you want to see triple FCs. And for a winner's bracket match where you are considered a top team, I don't know if triple FCs alone is going to cut it. You're going to definitely need to delve into the 995, 996 territory. We've seen a couple of lower seeded teams like Peru, Argentina just have a lot of people that can 995 it, 996 it. So, I mean, China already put up a really good score on Planet Shaper for LN3s. So, I want to see Canada strike back on this jump stream pick in good fashion and overtake them by a decent margin. It might be a little hard, but I definitely think it's possible.
I do think it is a bit funny to mention Argentina and Peru being lower seeded teams on Rice specifically, since I feel like their Rice is a bit crazy in terms of the lower
Exactly. Yeah.
seeds.
Just goes to
But
show how far some of these, how well even lower seeded in quotation marks seeded teams can play. They always have like one category that they're just so amazing at. And when you're top seed like China and Canada, you are expected to be amazing in every category. Stamina jump stream being one of them. So as we start out here, of course, all players just starting to get up to the combo cap, and all players around that 99.9 mark. It's just that Wom and Donex have a little bit of an accuracy advantage over the rest of the cast.
yeah, I think we'll probably see this lead slightly growing in terms of China, just because their accuracies are very, very strong. But I mean, this lead won't be growing too quickly, I'd say, just because it's very, very hard to be able to, for these players to find a very big judgment breaks, just because they're so good at this kind of difficulty. And I mean, we're actually seeing this lead almost flicker at this point. It's around the 3-digit range. It could go either way. It's literally based off of 300s alone.
Yeah, it's always an awkward spot when you have one team with like that first and third position, and then they also have the player that's performing, I guess, technically the worst in the lobby at the moment. That is going to be Parasol. She with 99.85, but not too far behind two players on Canada. So I think China still has a little bit of a lead just because of Don X. You know, Wom is matching Sawdust and Haler, but Don X above everyone else with a 99.96 is absolutely insane. 1,000 points is nothing to scoff at because, I mean, at this stage, you might be allowed to drop a slew of 300s or even a couple of 200s if you'd like, but no, China is growing that lead about 2,000 points now. Nemesis taking a break and a lot of 200s with it. Very unfortunate drop by them, but as we finally get into this more streamy section, you see just how excruciating this map is in terms of stamina.
Yeah, and when taking 200s will swing the lead, taking a break itself is going to be absolutely devastating. We've seen that lead swing up from a 3-digit range all the way to 6K at this point. Donex still holding strong alongside WOM, but Canada needs to find something to break through China at this moment, and it comes out right now. Donex taking a break. Is it going to be enough, though? I think Canada or China's accuracy is still very, very strong at this moment.
Yeah, I just don't think that trade is enough. Yes, Donex did break, but they were the highest performing person on their team and is very clean compared to Nemesis. So yes, Donex is going to get back up to combo cap, and as all things settle, it's about 2,000 points for China. The map is trying to end, you know, a couple of one-hand trills, a lot of three-note chords represented, and a lot of jacks to end it off. But it seems like no, China has staved off Canada if they can get through this last and final section. 2,500 points. Tree and Wom trying their best, trying to get that double FC. And as the last note is played, we do see that China will run away with it. There was a trade of one miss to one, but in the end, China just had the better accuracy.
Yeah, and I mean, we said that Nemesis actually dropped a lot, and they dropped maybe two bad judgments in that one break, which is just
Yeah,
absolutely absurd to see how big a lead can swing just on these kind of maps.
gotta shout out Sawdust and Haler for almost matching Warm 998s for each of them. And for Donix to get a 993 with 1 201 misses, also crazy per Tree, putting up a good supporting score. China going to be up 2-0. Pineapple, there's a reason why they are seed number one, and they're showing it here. Two very crazy team performances on each of the maps that we've seen so far, and they're gonna have the next pick. Do they want to go for their protect in LN1? They still have LN2 and 4 as well, so really pick of the litter here as China seem very comfortable in the bottom half of this map pool.
Yeah, and they do pick Ellen one. I definitely think it's a good idea, considering that she did really, really well in Planet Shaper on not only accuracy on combo. I think Golden Ray is pretty good for this team. It's probably the most closely related to Planet Shaper, and I don't know. I feel like the other two, it's about the same, but yeah, I guess we'll be seeing China probably swap in, maybe not having Donex since they did not play the last LN map this time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Boa Melt on LN3, and they did pretty well, all things considered. They got a 993, which was almost top score on Planet Shaper, just losing out to Parasol Tree by like 2 300s. So it's a little surprising to see Don X in here, but I mean, definitely a big change in the type of elements that you're playing. You know, right now you're in the coordination section, so you're gonna see Sawdust, Haler, and Verdon, two players that we saw on LN3 for Canada. But are we gonna see Tonk in for them as well? Because that was their third man. We do see Nemesis instead.
Yeah, interesting to see that Nemesis didn't play the first map compared to this one. Maybe Tonk just feels a lot more comfortable on Planet Shaper. But I do believe we'll probably be seeing Verdun and Sawdust Inhaler just throughout the entire match, since they are kind of the core, especially Sawdust Inhaler being kind of the top player for Canada in this tournament.
Exactly. And so Melt is actually going to come in for China. So we are getting that same superstar roster that we've seen through and throughout LN picks. And on Golden Ray, this is another one of the longer maps for LN. It's over 3 minutes long. I think overall, a lot of the LNs are actually over 3 minutes long. So, yeah, I mean, yes, actually, everything but LN uh one or no, this is
Nope,
LN1.
not LN1. Probably
I am
LN2.
going
Probably
crazy. Yes,
LN2.
LN2, LN2. Everything but LN2 is over 3 minutes. So you kind of have to have that consistency that is needed, even though you are playing a very interesting category where it's very release heavy. You have a lot of multi-lane, inverse jacks. There's a lot to handle on a map like this, and the fact that you're doing it for 3 minutes just means that you have to be all the more consistent.
Yeah, it definitely exhausts your LN team a lot having so many long maps. And especially since China doesn't really rotate out too many players, I would say it's not too great for them. But I mean, swapping in between Rice and LN is very, very different. So it doesn't really exhaust them too much. But starting off, we're about a quarter of the way through already, seeing a slight lead for China. It's very minor since we haven't seen too much of the map. It's basically on accuracy alone at this point.
Very much so. Accuracy bias towards China at the moment. I mean, see full melt with a 99.86, very much so above anyone else in the lobby. Personal Tree and Wom are clinging on very hard. I think they're doing well to match the first and second positions on Canada of Sawdust and Hailer and Verdon. But Nemesis unfortunately falling a little bit behind in terms of accuracy. 99.59 just is not up to snuff. And China's going to take that lead 4,500 points even.
Yeah, I think the difference between Volmel and Nemesis at this point is really the big reason why China has such a big lead at 5K without any misses happening at this point. China has the opportunity where they can take a miss and they'll most likely survive through with just their accuracy alone. Just because Paracel Tree and Willem are able to hold off Sudden Inhaler and Burrow.
Yeah, Nemesis finally taking a drop, and it is traded out by Wom, so 1-1 on each side in terms of misses. But that's gonna favor China overall, I feel. I mean, Wom did have a pretty dirty break, but we've seen this map where Wom does kind of have that accuracy to recover, but Nemesis has kind of stayed stagnant on 99.5. So yes, you'll see Wom climb up into a 99.6 after having a pretty big accuracy drop, and we have a little bit of a break here in the map before we get into that final section where it gets very, very dense.
Yeah, I do think Photo Melt's accuracy lead just throughout this entire lobby being at least a point 0.10 of a percentage difference between any other player has been really, really helping China at this point. This 3K lead, it has shrunk since the start, so a miss can still screw up China here. But it's not like we're seeing it right now. We have a sliver of the map left, and it is still a decent amount since this map's density just never ends. And instead, Nemesis is gonna be the one to miss, and that kind of marks the end for Canada here. China will go up 3-0 in this match.
Very unfortunate drop from Nemesis. And 8,000 points is actually, when you think about it, quite small of a win for China. They really didn't have too much breathing room throughout this map. And so Formel and Parasol Tree having that 994.8 and that 992.6, that was essentially needed for China to take the map. I don't think they can really rest easy on LN maps too much. I mean, we saw them beat out Canada by a lot, but on Planet Shaper, but on their protective LN1, it was a little bit more shaky.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, Canada's pick. Not too sure what they would really opt for. Honestly, Rice 3 was pretty close, so I would assume they'd probably go towards that Canada side. Maybe wanted to go for something where China can miss. I know Rice 5 has been something that a lot of player or a lot of teams have been really struggling on in terms of combo. So that could be a pretty good option. Maybe not want to go for something more simple, just so that you don't really have to play in an accuracy war against China.
Yeah, I don't think the accuracy war worked out in Canada's favor. So yeah, you're right. Rice 5, 6, and 7 all seem like decent choices. I would say in particular maybe something like Rice 7 we've seen a lot of breaks on, as well as Rice 6. So I think either of those might be a little bit better than Rice 5, but as a whole, Canada should probably be aiming for the bottom half of the Rice section. And yes, they are going to go for Toki.
Kind of interesting to see. I definitely can understand it. This map is extremely short. It's like almost TV size short. It's a minute 30 basically. So a lot of room for error, or not too much room for error necessarily. Just because one miss really just screws you up, and this map builds up more and more. It's very similar to Fireball, I believe, was a map from last year, where it's
Yeah,
kind
I think
of skewed towards the end.
I think Canada is probably going for that angle where it's like they're not necessarily going for a clean accuracy win. It's really just try to pick the map that makes China feel the most uncomfortable and capitalize on that. So they're really hoping that the weird polyrhythms in this map and the increased density as time goes on catches someone out on China, and Canada can maybe triple FC it and just maybe not have the best accuracy on it, but have the better combo on it.
Yeah, but we'll just have to see how it goes, honestly. I feel like for Canada at this point, you're kind of on the back foot. China needs to win at least 2 break points against you to win and not get swept and sweep. So you still have a lot of opportunity to at least take 1 point and maybe form some sort of comeback, since China has quite a bit of a lead at this point. But I mean, we'll just have to see in Toki, right? 7.
Main focus of this map obviously being those two column jacks alongside the weird polyrhythms that you have to play around, and it really is just a mess in best of ways. It gets so hectic, not only at the start, but it's just as the fact that it ramps up as the song goes on. It's just towards the end, expect to see a lot of accuracy drops.
Yeah, I think for the start, things are probably going to be very chill. And I guess not really chill, but like it's going to be extremely close. We'll probably see this lead be swinging constantly over and over. And it's going to be like this for most of the map. We are already halfway through. So the map has honestly blinked just immediately.
Yeah, and as you said, not a lot of room for error. One miss from any one person could potentially mean the end of your run on this map, and could potentially mean that your team loses out. And as Canada loses out on some accuracy through the power of a couple of 200s, China is going to take what little they can, about 4,000 points of a lead. You do see this little stream section here, and then we're finally gonna get into the most dense part of it. China trying to hold on as much as they can. Their spirits, unfortunately, Full Melt finds a big drop in accuracy, and map is closing out already. Canada up by 3,000 points. If anyone breaks, it's over. But Canada, are they gonna stand strong? Yes, they are. Huge drop from Full Melt in the middle of the map, and it wasn't even a break. It was just 11 200s that made China lose that point.
Yeah, and that's just how Toki always is. It's basically who can get the least amount of 200s at the end of that map, or just whoever breaks first.
So Canada actually winning out in terms of accuracy, big time. I mean, Woman, Sawdust, and Hailer essentially hand in hand. The same thing with Pierce Sultry and Nemesis. It's just the third player on each of their teams. Tonk and full melt Tonk able to minimize the 200s with two 200s. They did have two 100s, but full melt more importantly had 11 200s, and China really gonna lose out on that point. Canada getting their own pick, finally able to break into this match, but China is up next to pick, and boy, do they have some choices. They have LN2, they have LN4.
Yeah, I do think it is still interesting at this point. Canada honestly still has some room to be able to come out and take another break point. I mean, they honestly, I think Fake is a pretty interesting map for China. I don't think it's necessarily the easiest to be able to stay consistent on, especially since I think this is probably where Canada shines the most.
Yeah, it feels kind of it it has that big physicality factor to where you think that Canada might have some sort of advantage in that term. But when you think about it, with how LN1 and 3 have gone, Canada hasn't had the best third man on each of those maps. Tonk had a 976 on Planet Shaper, and then also on Golden Ray, which was China's Protect. Nemesis had a 979. So you really look towards that lower edge of both teams, and you see that China just has that big disparity there. Yes, some people in Canada can't step up, but when you kind of compare it, it really doesn't matter because where the margins lie are in that third man.
Yeah, that definitely is true. I think it's alongside that third man from Canada and how well Full Amount has been doing. I think Parasol Tree was doing really, really well on Rice or LN3, but I mean, they seem to struggle a bit more on LN1. And I think Fake is a bit more similar to LN1 in terms of its accuracy ability, so I'm not sure how well they're going to fare on this. But Full Amount has been very, very consistent on any kind of LNs that they've been playing so far.
That is true, where Fake just kind of has that perfect storm of weird release difficulty, but also kind of, a little bit of physicality in the sense that it is very Ellen vocal dumpy. So, you do got to move quick on a map like this rather than kind of play around Jax plus releases on LN1. So, China looking to get 3-4-3 on the LN maps. Not only that, push up to 4-1 against Canada. This is a big point.
Yeah, but we'll just have to see as this map goes on. Another very, very long LN map, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Is this the longest LN map in the pool? I believe so.
Yeah, it is.
But starting us off, once again, this lead will not grow too big for the time being. China probably going to start us off with a slight lead, but I mean, it's nothing to really think about, honestly. Keep in mind, these little short LNs are going to be where a lot of people are going to be leading slight accuracy drops.
Exactly, that's where a lot of people will find mostly late releases. So watch out for that as the map goes on, because when the map does feature a lot of that, especially in the more intense vocal sections, that's where we're gonna see some people drop down just a bit, and we do see a little bit of a drop from mostly everyone in terms of accuracy. It's not like some other skill sets where you're expected to get over 99.7, if not 99.8 and above. You see only really 2 people above a 99.7, and Parasol Tree unfortunately gonna take a big miss on the staggered quads, which means Canada gonna have the slightest bit of a lead as Parasol Tree tries to get back up to comp cap.
Yeah, it is interesting to see how this lead has honestly not even grown towards Canada that much. Canada's accuracy itself has been honestly not the best. They seem to be bleeding these 200s as well as a lot of just random 300s on these short LNs that we're talking about. This lead is around the 3-digit range and it's flickering, but as the map goes on, I believe China will be just securing this lead more and more, so Canada will need to see more than just that one miss from Parasol Tree.
Exactly, because Crystal 2, once they got back up to the combo cap, China was able to make back their deficit and take along more points with it. So we're on, we're in that little midway transition, and 2,000 points is on China's side. You see two players on the side of Canada, honestly, kind of struggling in terms of actually, a lot of 200s taken, a lot of late 300s, especially when it comes to the shorter note Ellens that we talked about. Verdon and Tonk trying their best to try to keep up with the opponents on the side of China, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. It's pretty much hinging on the backs of China potentially missing yet again, and this map is about to ramp up.
Yeah, Verdon and Sawdust Inhaler being about a tenth of a percentage behind Donax and FOMO is just not what you want to see it if you are a Canada fan. This lead for China has just been increasing more and more ever since that one miss happened. And in this last quarter, there is still a possibility for Parasol Tree to take another miss or anybody from China. But we'll just have to see it happen really, really quickly since as we get closer and closer to this 5K lead mark, I think that's kind of the threshold that Canada needs.
I think Sanapla, you might be the real Sawdust Inhaler. It's a little bit of a hit there, but no, China is absolutely decimating performance from them. To see that we have two full combos at a very respectable accuracy of 99.60, 99.79 is absolutely amazing. And yes, Canada did do their best. They got the triple FC. They did everything that was needed in order for them to take a point, but they just needed a little bit more that was out of their hands, which was China needing to miss just a little bit more. So 993 from Donex, almost a 990 from Formelt is absolutely insane.
Yeah, Donix's score is kind of absurd. I do think these kinds of LM maps really lend their weight just to really, really strong physical players, especially like Donax. So it's a bit understandable. But now it's time for Canada. You have been able to win that Rice 7 in Toki. So are you going to go for something a bit more different in terms of Rice like 1 or 2? Or are you going to go for that Rice 5 like I was saying earlier, maybe hoping for a miss for China? Or just a bunch of accuracy drops once again?
Yeah, they could pick either Rice 5 or Rice 6, but this is a very important one just because it's their potential last one. So if they're not able to secure this point, China might be able to end it off on what we all think is going to be LN2. So they're going to go for Bison Charge instead, Hybrid 1, changing up the game plan just a little bit. Sonable, how do you feel about seeing Hybrid 1 being picked over something like Rice 5 that you talked about?
I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I feel like in terms of the matches so far in my head, like Hybrid 1 should never be a really good pick. But it's really been like taking some teams off guard, like some teams in the lead off guard, which has been really, really interesting. So maybe this is a chance for Canada to strike back.
This could definitely be something where Canada can strike back. It is very speedy, so it kind of has that sense of urgency on the map, and there's not a ton of LN compared to the Rice. The ratio is pretty in favor for Rice patternings, so I can see why Canada picked this. There's very similar choke points to Toki.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think same thing where like, especially towards the end of the map, this map just gets absolutely absurd. I think a lot of the 243 BPM streams are towards the end, so maybe they're trying to bank on another section where some of the Chinese players struggle a bit more. And also, I believe China doesn't necessarily have a super great roster for hybrids. I mean, all these players can definitely play hybrids themselves, but being able to play them and being able to play them in a tournament setting is very, very different.
Yeah, so all players I think loaded in. We're gonna see Tonk Inhaler, Verdon, Full Melt, Parasol Tree, Don X for China. So yet again, let's see how Don X does on a map like this. We didn't see Wom on the last LN map on Fake, so it's pretty interesting. But I like the change out from that. I think China got a really good team score, and I think they can do it again. But obviously, Canada needing this point so much more. This is very short, like Toki. You know, minute 42. It's just it all hinges on can China slip up once again, and Canada has been very consistent in their performance. I mean, we just saw them have a triple FC on Fake, so if they can hit a triple FC on Bison Charge, no doubt in my mind they can take this point.
Yeah, but I guess we'll just have to see how it goes as we go into this pick. Keep in mind, Canada, if they do lose this, not only do they take a break point, China is also on match point on their own pick. It's going to be a bit difficult for them to come back from. So this point is very important for Canada at this point, at this moment.
Exactly. Hybrid section up here, and everyone doing pretty well on it. It just seems like China just has the better grip at the moment. There are a couple of right spikes coming up that should maybe favor Canada just a little bit, but no, a big drop from Tonk. Lots of late 200s from them. China gonna have a very big lead. Is it enough that they can afford to miss? I don't know, but that doesn't matter as Tonk is actually the one to miss on this map.
Yeah, it's a bit ironic that as you say that, Canada maybe not really doing the best. But I mean, at this point, China 16k lead. It's going to be very hard for them to lose this. They'll need probably a three-way break from China right now if Canada wants to be able to take this point.
And hey, crazier things have happened. This map is pretty spiky, and especially the LN spike at the very end of this map. I can totally see it happening, but you know, the lead is quite large. Parasol Tree and Donex look particularly comfortable on this map in full melt, giving a great supporting score in the 99.7, just about matching two players from Canada. So here we go with this LN spike. Is anyone going to miss? No, unfortunately not. China is going to go up 5-1 Sun Apple.
Very difficult for Canada right now. China on match point with their own pick, still having LN2 open. I mean, Canada just has to play whatever China chooses. Most likely it's going to be LN2, but I mean, you could always go for Hybrid 2 as well.
That is true, but I would like to see China just round out the LN picks. I don't try to fix what isn't broken. Could definitely go for that last LN, and yet another top score from Don X. This has become the Don X challenge. Can you beat this man when it comes to these quarterfinal maps? It's a tall ask, but Canada do or die in the winners bracket. Yes, they still have a second chance, but obviously they do not want to drop down at all.
Yeah, it really is true. Donex Rice, Donex Hybrids, Donex LN. This man can eat anything.
He can.
But, I mean, China has so many options right now. I don't even think it matters really what they choose. Canada has to at least think of some way to be able to move past this when they take the break point. I believe in them. Most likely, I would say, as I've been consistently saying, Rice 5 is probably the best option once they lose, or once they win. But first they have to be able to win this point. And China's been looking so strong.
Strong indeed. Again, this is why they are seed 1. However, I will say they have been taking their time with this pick. I'm pretty sure, you know, most of their picks have been just like immediate, but they took a little time with this one. Maybe they weren't feeling as confident, or maybe Full Melt just forgot, as they say. Oh, sorry. LN2 as the ref passes again, just to make sure. You're gonna see the LNs finally blotted out as we gear up into the density pick. I don't know how Canada is gonna fare on this one. This is pretty tough, and to be fair, neither team's played the density pick for last round with Origami.
Yeah, so this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. Maybe this is why China hasn't opted to play it so far. We do finally see the shortest LF map, and it's still 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which is very funny considering that a rice map in the pool is 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, so you know, I think with the bump in BPM, it's a decent one from Origami. Um, this might be kind of tough for the third man for some teams, but definitely have to watch out for some of these players on Canada. Are they going to slip a little bit in terms of accuracy? Because time and time again throughout this weekend, we've been seeing a lot of scores where teams will just have two pretty good performers on the density map and then one that unfortunately takes a couple misses or just can full combo it but rather just not have that accuracy that's needed. So maybe that'll happen here. Obviously Canada does not want that to happen at all, tries to prevent that from even being in their minds as we gear into this match, into this map. And you know, pretty slow start, but we're finally gonna get into the real density, and it seems like at a standstill. You know, Canada's doing all right, but China just has two very good performers in FOML and Donex.
Yeah, we've seen this before in a lot of maps, though, where teams have a slight lead at the start, but I mean, it's not like looking like it's too great for Canada. LS Nemesis does take a break, and it was a pretty dirty one, considering that the lead instantly swung up to 10k from 3 digits. I was going to say that it's pretty common for a lead to start off really small and then grow massive for the other team, but it's not looking like that's the case for this scenario.
Yeah, it's more like it's starting off with a bang of China having 10,000 points of a cushion, and with Nemesis dropping yet again, no one on China even thinking about missing right now, as lead has ballooned up to 16,000. So very, very scary situation for Canada, as again, winners bracket life on the line. China looking to close this out early, a little bit of a break section, but once we get into the next density part, maybe Canada can make something happen there.
Yeah, a 20k, almost 20k lead. It's getting up to 18k at this point. It's looking like it's kind of hard for Canada to make a comeback. I think we will need 3 breaks from every single player on China, but it's not looking like that's going to happen. Donex continuing to complete their challenge in this noodle section right now, doing so well, and kind of outpacing the entire lobby. Just the only player close to them is Sonic Inhaler, but Vernon taking a miss alongside LS Nemesis kind of secures it. China, once again, lead ever expanding. This map comes to a close. It's looking like they will continue on into semifinals, taking a almost sweep against Canada. And Canada will drop down to losers bracket, having to struggle their way up to get further and further.
Yeah, so GGWP to both China and Canada. Canada made some great moves, but unfortunately cannot stop the beast known as Seed 1. And China going to, I would say, comfortably take it and head on into the semis through the winners bracket, whereas Canada drops down into the losers. China going to face the winner of either Hong Kong or United Kingdom. That's going to be decided later, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, one of our last matches at 15 UTC. And Canada, their opponent is going to be decided in a couple after a couple of conditionals. So not very sure yet who Canada is going to face, but China is going to take this win at the end of it.
Yeah, Canada did very well throughout the match. Just kind of hard to do anything against Seed 1, so not too absurd to be able to lose to them. But congrats. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say, Dinah. Do you have anything that you want to maybe talk about? Maybe something that you can buy, like, I don't know, was it 6 gumballs? I think it was 6 gumballs with.
There's something to that too, and I think it was 10 gumballs, but you know, with China coming out on top, gives me a great segue into what I want to really share with you guys is how you guys can get some swag on top of your profile through the manner of the banners. You can find those in the Osu store if you go over to the Osu homepage, click on the headliner store, and then in the products for less than the cost of 1 month of Osu supporter, or as Sun Apple said, 10 gumballs, you too can get some nice little headliners on your profile for everyone to see. Support your team, support your favorite teams, support your favorite teams multiple times. And if you pick the winner, that actually stays onto your profile for the entire year up until the next MWC 4K edition. So if you guys like how that sounds, go ahead into the shop and support your favorite game and the tournament team that you love today.
Yeah, I know I bought 2 Dynascape. I assume you probably bought at least 1. If not, you should buy one right now.
Yeah, I've got one for the US. I'm probably gonna buy one, at least a couple more later. If someone wants to match me, I'll go with you. But no, that's gonna do it for us for now. There's a very interesting match in the USA versus Vietnam in 9 minutes, so we're gonna take a little bit of a break and then come back to you guys. Then sit tight as we take a little break, and we'll see you then.
Bye bye.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the OC Mania 4-Key World Cup 2025. We have some amazing quarterfinals action to get back to, and this time it'll be a winners bracket match. One of our many so far upset victors making it into the winners quarterfinals. Vietnam, our number 10 seed, trying to make another upset happen against the number 2 seed, the United States, vying for their spot in the winners semifinal side, trying to get into that top 6. It'll be an incredible match. I will be one of your commentators for this match, Toph Eddie, joined here by Dynascape. How's it going?
It is going great, Toph. What better way to have this little block than have back-to-back headliner matches? I mean, we were just treated with China versus Canada, seed 1 versus seed 8. Then we have seed 2 versus seed 10, United States, Vietnam. And this should be, obviously United States back-to-back reigning champs of 23 and 24. But with how the winners bracket and quarterfinals have been going, it has been showing that these top seeds are not invincible at all. South Korea falling to Chile 1-6, and of course the one we just saw, China losing a point to Canada and also having a couple of close maps at that. So can Vietnam make any plays, show any signs of weaknesses in this United States team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this United States team, obviously not perfect. Number 2 seed should be enough to show that. Number 1 seed the past 2 years before that, and managing to take the victory, like you said. So reigning champs looking to make it into the semifinals of Vietnam, looking to shatter their hopes for their winners bracket run. But at the moment, Vietnam's just got to find those holes. For United States in the qualifiers, it was the early game accuracy, because they ended up finding a couple of misses on that round 1 rice pick. So the easier accuracy picks could definitely be an opportunity for Vietnam to find some hold on the United States as far as consistency, but they've got to hold the consistency themselves to be able to take those points, especially with how strong the United States accuracy is.
For sure. And Vietnam opting to protect Rice 2. United States had that Rice 6 protects, so double Rice protects. Vietnam up next to ban, and I thought that was pretty interesting that Vietnam is going for a Rice 2 protect, considering how close some of their LN and hybrids were from last week. Hybrid 3, they were right behind the US last week. Same thing with LN1. Yes, it was off of the back of a miss each on the side of the United States, but it does show that Vietnam can play very cleanly when it comes to some of these more off-kilter categories. And, well, they are going to ban LN1.
You mentioned Logo 1 being pretty close, and Vietnam opting to get rid of that, not wanting to play it United States, despite having some mistakes overall when it comes to those awkward picks, especially LN1 with the release. Wow! Oh my goodness! This is interesting. The only other match I've commentated so far this week was that upset, the Chile versus South Korea, and we saw a largely hybrid and long note focused match with a double Rice ban. This time we're seeing the opposite of that, a double LN ban. So both of these teams not feeling too comfortable with the LNs, and it pushes the same kind of issue that we saw in that Chile South Korea, where we're going to see a lot more picks based on comfort rather than skill set specifics. We're not going to see LN based picks. We're not going to see hybrid based picks from either of these teams specifically. We're going to see comfort picks where it's accuracy based, or if it's we want to keep combo and make sure that we're looking for misses on the other side. And I think that's a fair strategy from both teams.
Yeah, I kind of like that strategy employed, and especially at least on the side of the United States. I mean, you look at some of the scores that Vietnam had on last week's match against Thailand, and they had a couple of shaky categories. Specifically, Rice Six comes to mind, Shiraku from last week. United States, I feel like, is really targeting that by protecting Kyomi no Nami and taking out LN2. It really feels like they're probably going to try to go for some of these more physical Rice picks, and like you said, bring a little bit of shakiness to Vietnam's game plan, really test them on physicality, really test them on some of these burstier picks, and make them as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, and as you say that, Rice 1 going to be the selection, not quite going for anything super uncomfortable, though as far as Rice 1 and speed picks go, this one certainly not the most straightforward, has some changing snaps, has some pretty technical patterns for a speed map, but still does have that straightforward kind of speed requirement throughout, and I think that's kind of what United States is going for here.
Yeah, great choice by United States. You know, obviously, Rice won pretty good flexor into a variety of other Rice categories later on. And as we've seen throughout this weekend, honestly, a lot of teams have been having a third player struggle on it. You know, they'll have one or two really good 990 plus scores, but then they'll have someone that takes a lot of miss, not able to keep up with the 336 BPM streams, or maybe like the weirder snappings during the vocal sections. So, you know, it's not super straightforward from Valedict on this map. It's quite varied, and for United States, it seems like that's what they want to go for.
Yeah, just looking for the kind of third player issues from Vietnam, trying to take advantage of what may exist there. We see the three players for the United States, Hello Sun, on the wrong side at the moment, but looks like this will be Nevajin Minwoo, Hello Sun for the United States. We see RXI Zuna for Vietnam, and no one else in the lobby for them, just waiting for the other two players to show up for this first pick.
Yeah, I think usually it should be, you know, Lot and Triduan Gaming. That's usually two of their anchors when it comes to Rice, and also Vixal as well. I know is quite good. They have a lot of players that can play Rice for Vietnam. I wonder if this quarterfinals bump means that some players that usually play the early game Rice are subbed out, and can I see that with Nachumi Chan coming in? I wonder who that third player is going to be for Vietnam.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Shridoin and Lot as potential anchors. We don't see either of them in the lobby so far. So that's going to be an interesting situation for Vietnam to be in. We'll have to see who their third player is coming in, waiting just for them to get started on this first map.
So Vietnam trying to get their third player in. Seems like they're just having a little bit of an issue. Not the best way to start off the match. Just some unfortunate connection issues. Maybe needs to get switched over to the attorney's server, but it seems like at least the United States is very much so ready to go, and we're gonna see the featuring of Min Woo, the United States freshman, their first year in MWC, and boy, have they been performing time and time again, not only in the qualifiers, but just throughout the bracket stages. Not a name many people are familiar with, but they can really just play anything and give a good supporting score to cores like Neptune Hello Sun, Neptune Peach Marrow when it comes to different categories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm well versed with the U.S. team, and Minwoo was a name I just straight up didn't know when I came into this. So a good surprise for the United States to see them performing as well as they are, but they do have Vietnam against them right now. Tridoin going to be the third player for Vietnam, one of those two anchors you mentioned before, coming in and trying to take an early break point, doing what they can. And as we get into map number 1 out of a possible 11, United States trying to open this up on a strong note. Vietnam trying to take a break point early on, and we'll have to see how these two teams perform with the speed map in the pool. Rice 1 starting with the first map in the pool. How fitting.
Yeah, and starting off pretty light. You know, you have a couple of Allens, but now we finally get into what this map is really made of. You know, the vocal snapping's a little bit different. You know, the patterning is pretty straightforward overall, but the speed absolutely is what is out to get you on a map like this. And for Rizuna, it seems like it's out to get them just a little bit more than any of the players on the United States. Minwoo actually taking a very early, I think 100 that is, plus a couple of 300s to go along with it. But with Rizuna, unfortunately not able to keep up with the speed that is needed on this map. United States with a 10,000 point lead halfway in.
Yeah, that accuracy also dropping quite heavily with Rizuna's first miss. The accuracy from the United States holding very strong. Minwoo a little bit behind the other players here. We have 5 full combos, 4 of them above that 99.8 mark, and the Chumi-chan a little behind, but now getting back up to it. But Minwoo down to the 99.58 accuracy, not holding on super strong for them, but luckily for Minwoo, Rizuna having a little bit more struggles with the accuracy on top of that miss against the United States, an early lead. I mean, I say early, but we're already 3/4 of the way through this map, and the United States looking super strong so far.
Exactly, one of those shorter maps where you cannot really take a breath. And so as we get into the second vocal section, here we go with more of these straightforward streams, and Neptune Hello Sun very much so on top of anyone else on Vietnam. Tridoan Gaming finally finding a break. That was their top performer as well. So unfortunately, title name, it's going down now. It's gonna be really for the combo of Vietnam. United States able to close this out. Triple FCs on all 3 of them. And I don't, honestly, to be frank, it was not super close, but that's really what it is when you face a team like the United States. 43,000 points. Yes, it could have been a little bit less, but nothing short of perfection is needed from any team opposing the United States if you want to take a single point.
Yeah, I mean, you see that double S from the United States. Minwoo, like you mentioned, had a couple of bad judgments early on in that map, which caused the accuracy to be a little low. 250s and a 100, causing a little bit lower of a score, but a couple misses on the side of Vietnam. Tridoan and Rizuna both finding some misses was enough for the United States to have a very strong score and lead. But Nachumi-chan with the FC was keeping up. Clearly, Vietnam has what it takes to keep it competitive, but you're going to need to keep all 3 of your team members competitive in order to kind of take down the United States in this scenario, especially if they play like that for the rest of these maps. But we have a lot of choke opportunity, lots of opportunities for Vietnam to kind of push their way into points, and they did protect that Rice too. Could see something like that coming out, but I would imagine Vietnam wants to go with something more straightforward. Rice 2 comes to mind, Hybrid 1 potentially, especially seeing that LN2 ban from the United States. You want to go with something a little more straightforward, a little bit more accuracy focused, try and look for those mistakes from the United States and take advantage of what you can.
Yeah, and I mean, for Vietnam, I mean, a little bit of weakness was shown from the United States, even on that map, even though they were blown out by 43,000 points. Admittedly, Neptune is on his laptop instead of usual PC, so I mean, they got a 9956, which is still a very stellar score, but not as much as they should usually be scoring. And Minwoo, self-reporting, had their overlay, I'm guessing, for Discord on, got under a 990. So if Vietnam wants to strike, this is a pretty good week to do it, it seems.
Yeah, definitely trying to strike the United States when they're at their weakest. They do end up going for their protect, going in order in the pool so far. We've gone Rice 1, Rice 2 so far. These teams wanting to go in order right now so far. And
let's just go down the line, Toe.
Let's just go down the line. United States, pick Rice 3, go for Stamina next. It'll be easy. Just keep doing it. But they'll have to get through this map first, and we'll see a couple of swap outs. No one on Vietnam swapping out. Rizuna, Nachumi-chan, and Tridoan all staying in. Neptune, the only one in the United States, staying in. Though we do see Locke coming in, so we might see a swap on Vietnam as Restaurant comes in the United States.
No, a lot popping in, popping out. So maybe not, but you know, it's funny that we say, you know, just go down the line, but when you think about it, if the United States is able to get this point of LN2, why not go for, or sorry, Rice 2? Why not go for Rice 3, right? The next jump team pick.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as a pick, but they do have to get through this pick first. This is Vietnam's protect. So this is the kind of pick where Vietnam feels the strongest, feels like they can really put a performance on. And and Lot replacing the player who was having maybe the weakest performance on Vietnam might be a good sign for them in this situation.
Yeah, with Rizuna out and Lot in, Lot maybe just feeling a little bit more comfortable on the jump streams, and we do see Restaurant and Peach Marrow subbed in for Minwoo and Hello Sun, so double US swap. Everyone seems to be ready. This seems to be the finalized teams for both of them, and this is the speedier one, so I mean, I guess it lends itself a little bit more to Rice 1 compared to some of the other maps in the Rice pool, but obviously it is just straight 252 BPM jump streams. The patterning is quite stale. I don't want to say stale, but straightforward is really the way I want to describe it.
It's
but
constant,
also very anchored.
I think, is the right term. Yeah. It just keeps going. It's pretty repetitive under certain circumstances, but that's just how jump stream is most of the time, right? But if you're capable of holding the accuracy on it, it shouldn't be too much of an issue unless you mind block it. And Peach Marrow with an early break before 400, so not the biggest issue, but enough for Vietnam to take an early lead, especially with those impressive accuracies. Everyone above 99.92 at the moment as we are getting to the 600 combo mark. Peach Marrow recovering to 400, but accuracies in favor of Vietnam on top of the combos is going to give about a 7,000 point lead here.
And with Natsumi-chan actually missing, I was gonna say this could finally be Vietnam's time to shine. You have Peach Marrow with a very devastating start, I think to the tune of a couple misses, and also just took, I think, 150 and 2 100s. So Peach Marrow not having the best time. It seems like Vietnam could maybe have this in their grasp if this keeps up from the United States. And Neptune and Rushram doing their best with over 99.9s, but that's honestly equaled out by Try to Run Gaming and Lot. So it's just the tale of the third player with Peach Marrow versus Natsumi-chan at the moment.
Yeah, we saw the early miss from both Natsumi-chan and Peach Marrow. The one miss from Natsumi a little bit more impactful because it was after 400, but the accuracy drop overall was more devastating for Peach Marrow. It's still at the 99.7s, whereas Natsumi-chan's a little bit cleaner, 99.8%, and that is helping Vietnam hold on to the lead as we get into the last third. And Peach Marrow actually going to find another drop, and Vietnam going to extend that lead and potentially look to take this first point in the match for themselves. 1/4 of the map left, and a 7,000 point lead means another miss should be recoverable for Vietnam, and they're looking very strong right now. Just a little bit left in the charge, just need to hold strong through the rest of it, and they will be able to take this map and bring it to a tie slate. But Tree to win, and a double miss from Vietnam right at the end is going to swing it right back over to the United States as they were looking so strong. And despite 2 misses from Peach Marrow, the United States going to take a break point right at the end.
They had it. It was in their hands, Toph. Vietnam with the perfect chance to take a point against a monster like United States, but unfortunately, either that stamina running out or just the mental mental reading drying out on the side of Vietnam. And Try to Run Gaming, Natsumi taking misses at the very end, slides it over to the United States at the very last second. We saw Peach Marrow just repeated misses having some sort of issue. We see Neptune with not the scores that you'd expect. And United States, like I said, they just seem in such a weakened state, but Vietnam is just not able to capitalize at the moment.
Yeah, really good performance from Vietnam up to the very end of that chart, and it makes sense why they went for that Rice 2 pick. It just didn't end up going well for them. But that is going to be the first break point in the match in favor of the United States. Brings it to a 2-0 slate with the United States up to pick, able to potentially move this to a 3-0 lead if they can pick well. But they have a lot of the pool to go through. Rice 1 was quite definitive in their favor. I could see them going for a Rice 6 here if they wanted to stick with that same kind of style of map. I mean, given how Rice 2 went, I wouldn't suggest going with Rice 3. As much as it would be fun to just run the line of the map pool, I don't know if that's the best selection for them. I could also see them moving into some of the hybrids and LNs, especially with Vietnam seeming to want to kind of stick with the more straightforward maps.
Yeah, I can see that as well. The United States taking their time. They want to make sure that they have the best pick possible, and especially
look at that.
Ooh.
I can read their minds.
You can. I mean, it's almost as if you've been teammates with them before.
It's almost. But I mean, given their Rice 1 pick, this was almost a no-brainer. It is almost the exact same type of chart. It's a little technical, but lots of burst, lots of speed requirement, and I think that's exactly what the United States is going for so far in this match.
So Kyomin Nami, definitely one of the Rice picks that I look forward to the most. It's just such a good way of expressing this song, and it flows so well. It's very, very difficult. The patterns seem to creep up on you. There's very big bursts that if you don't know the song well enough, you might not expect. And definitely in the more vocal intense sections, it ramps up a lot. And Emjin Dev gonna try to do the job for the United States on their own pick. Third player, currently unknown, but Lot and Chumichan Tridoan Gaming seem to not want to swap out. It seems like they are going to be the ones yet again, but no, Lot actually getting out of the way.
Yeah, I imagine Minwoo might be the one coming in, and as I say the name Minwoo, they do come into the lobby. I'm a mind reader. I know what the U.S. is doing. Like, unironically, I've not talked to them about this. And actually, Dev swapping out as well. So Hello Sun actually going to be the player instead of Dev there. The Chumichan and Tridoan going to be staying in for Vietnam. Razuna actually coming back in, similar to what we saw from Rice 1.
So, pretty different lineups that we've seen from Andro, but at least compared to Rice 1, it is the same for United States and also the same for the Vietnamese team. We saw United States win by about 40,000 points. I don't think it's going to be that severe of a victory, but on paper, United States just has that upper hand on very streamy, very physical picks like this.
Yeah, absolutely. We see on the client one of the players disappearing a little bit. Might have to make sure that is handled properly. But the map has started.
Bancho waking out, a couple of misses from Hello Sun's side, a little bit of a restart. And even with this restart, wow, Bancho is just not having a great night. It's been overworked with this quarterfinals weekend, all the conditionals, everything that's needed.
Of course. What is a World Cup weekend without some technical difficulties? It never isn't like this, right?
It is not, and unfortunately, we're gonna get a little break here for this headliner match. But while we are in this break, what better way to talk than to talk about what you could be headlining on your profiles? So there's a little thing that you can grab from Osu. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I can absolutely tell you about that while we wait for this to restart. It is the banners. Go to your Osu store and buy some banners for any of the 32 teams. And I'm getting cut off while I try to shill for banners, but I will continue after the match finishes up. We see actually a miss coming out from the Chumichan, the one who had the crashed client there. We haven't gotten into any of the super difficult patterns yet, but we do see a miss coming out already with an 11,000 point lead in favor of the United States off of that singular miss. Accuracy's also well in favor of the United States with Nepogin and Hello Sun both holding on to 99.94s.
Absolutely disgusting performances from both Nepogin and Hello Sun. With a 13,000 point lead, the United States does have kind of that cushion where they can afford a miss, but obviously they don't want to. They've had pretty bad luck throughout this set and want to eliminate any bad juju on their side. Pretty calm portion of the map, but you will see a lot more of a spike later on. There is about a third left, and I would say it's probably the most deadliest portion of this map.
Yeah, absolutely. With some of these really difficult speed patterns and with those jacks intertwined, definitely makes the combo game a little bit difficult, especially with the difference in the snappings for a lot of these. Tridoan going to be the next missing twice actually, with the United States still holding on to all three full combos And a little bit of a different story from what we saw on Rice 1, where Vietnam had Rizuna having a little bit more trouble than the rest of the players, but now Rizuna trying to hold up the team with the only full combo left. Latrino and Nachimyu-chan missing, but those two misses are going to likely be enough here, as all three United States players holding on to exceptional accuracy full combos, and this is looking like a quick 3-0 in favor of the United States.
It does seem that way indeed. United States with about a 997 average. Very good performance from them, as they are honestly back in form now, Toph, I would say. You had a little bit of shakiness with Peach coming in, and I think apparently their keyboard was double tapping. Minwoo, their Discord overlay was up. A lot of hardware issues, but that all seems to be ironed out now. And now that we're in the middle of a match, with everything sorted out, United States is out in full force.
I need to mention something. Hello, Sun. I can't ratio 133. Are we supposed to believe you when you say that? I
don't believe him either.
I think they are lying. If I'm being completely honest, best ratio in the lobby can't ratio. I don't know if that's true.
It's like those people that are like, I'm just a noob or whatever. It's maybe like those prank videos where it's like janitor lifts really strong weights or something like that.
That is what's happening right now. United States lifting their muscles as the janitor's number 2 seed, of course. But one way or another, Vietnam going to have an opportunity to try and take a point away from the United States here. They were very close on that Rice 2, taking the lead up until the very end, and they're continuing the order. Rice 3, we still have not seen a single hybrid or long note pick come out from either team. No one wants to delve into that, but this perfectly makes sense. I understand this is a pick, especially with how Rice 2 ended up going. If Vietnam plays this the way I think they want to, I think they actually might have an advantage on this overall.
Yeah, I mean, Lot had a super great score on it, on the last jump stream pick of 99.86, which is almost a 996, and Chuduan, but for those misses was matching a couple of other people on the US as well. So again, if the United States has those issues crop up mid-match, Vietnam is able to capitalize, and they've shown a very strong muscle when it comes to accuracy on jump stream picks. Yes, this is a bit slower, so we're going to have to see if that changes anything, especially with, I would say, the harder patterning overall. You have a lot of chords, especially towards the end, and also not only that, you have a couple of streamier sections in the map, and it can maybe trip some people up.
Yeah, absolutely. And a very quick turnaround here. Reshiram coming in for Hello Sun on the United States. No other swap outs there. And no swap outs on Vietnam this time around. Lot not coming in for this. Rizuna trying to stay in and keep that full combo. What do you call it? The momentum is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The full combo momentum forward, trying to keep that going, and it totally makes sense. A little longer, a little slower, certainly within Rizuna's capabilities, especially if you're talking about comparatively to the faster jump stream of Rice 2. And already out of the gate, we're seeing some accuracies come out. Neptune a little behind the squad, not something you get to hear too often. Neptune a little behind in terms of accuracy, and that is allowing Vietnam to take a slight lead, but we still see some tug of war from the blue and red bars at the bottom, as everyone now above 600 combo, and that lead is pretty much going to stay stable until we start seeing some major accuracy differences.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when you said, Neptune a little bit behind the pack, but again, they're nerfed just a little bit with not playing on their usual setup. United States still able to have the slightest bit of a lead, and that's really off of the back of currently Minwoo able to match Tridon Gaming, and also Rizuna being a little bit behind everyone else. Remember, Rizuna was the person that kind of struggled a little bit when it came to the other jump stream pick. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but...
Not quite. Rizuna
Yeah.
wasn't in on the last jump stream pick. They struggled on Rice 1.
There we go. Yeah.
But one way or another, they were struggling with a little bit of higher speed, but this time around still holding on to the 99.85s, but 99.85 against this United States squad right now, even with Neptune having a little bit of a rough start, is not enough. United States taking a slight lead just because of that difference, though. Trito and Gaming doing what they can to both Nachubishan and Trito neutralizing two of the United States players. It really is the difference between thirds right now. Nepogen, a little behind at 99.92, is enough to neutralize Rizuna at about 0.1% higher, but that's still only about 1,000 points of difference, especially with how long this map is. And we still have half of the way to go as we see 6 full combos remaining intact.
Yeah, but this is really where the physicality starts to kick in. You've been playing for about over 2 minutes now. You have that last minute, and this is the last break of the map. So after this, when it ramps up, this is where stories are made. This is where pressure turns people into diamonds. Can Vietnam secure this point? They have a little bit of a deficit, but nothing that can't be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly nothing a mistake might not be able to recover. One miss could be the difference, but so far the United States not looking like they're giving up anything right now. All the accuracy is still holding strong everywhere. Full combos still holding strong. Not much to say about this. Last few patterns, 100,000 points left in the map and not much left to make mistakes about. But one miss anywhere could mean the difference with the United States not looking like they're giving anything up as we get into the final set of Jump Stream.
Yeah, last little stretch here, 2,000 points. So the United States has made their way just a little bit, but with this last note. Oh man, United States. Crazy performance. Almost. Oh wow, just 3 200s on the map in total from all 6 players.
The United States actually having worse 200 count, but the ratio, the regular 300 ratio being more than enough to carry them. That is ridiculous.
That is, and it's so sad for Vietnam too, because this team score beats out so many other teams in the tournament, I think, at the moment.
Oh, but for sure. Winners, it's crazy to see a 2990 on a quarterfinals map and not see that be the winner.
Yeah, a very rare sight, but of course, let's say it again, we're fighting the United States, and they are the ones up to pick now. They're up 4-0. They have a couple close calls. They've had a couple of far calls, very big margin wins. Which one grants them the biggest margin of victory, do you think, Toph?
If I'm being completely honest, I am looking at potentially Hybrid 2, maybe Rice 7. I think those are the 2 picks I would be looking at. But I'm wrong. Clearly, they're going to go for the Broken Jump Stream-esque pick of Rice 5. Still within the technical area, so it makes sense for them to go with it. I'm just surprised to see that over something like Rice 7.
Yeah, I mean, overall tonight, you've been on point with all of your calls. Just maybe
so
United
unfortunate.
States trying to spite you.
Sorry. My prize picks, my parlay didn't have Rice 5 in it. My bad.
Unfortunately, the parlay didn't hit Grosso's Castle.
Yeah. I had Rice 1, Rice 6, and then Rice 7, and it just didn't.
And the Minwoo swap in.
The Minwoo swap in does happen. Peach Marrow coming in as well. Sorry, Minwoo was in on the last pick. Peach Marrow's the swap in. What are we doing?
Yeah. Oh no, I meant for your parlay when you called that Minwoo swap in.
Oh, true.
That was a crazy one.
Crazy? You think I can't
just
read these guys?
Well, you're just, I don't know. You have the insider information. I think you got to be banned from gambling.
I straight up have not talked to them. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to be accused of insider trading right now. I have not talked to them since last week.
I mean, I feel like it's very common knowledge that when you join a team for MWC, you gain the knowledge of all players past and will gain the knowledge of all players in the future.
Is that
and
true,
you're all
Matt?
just it's kind of like Avatar in The Last Airbender, where you look
Yeah,
back and
okay.
sees all the ancestors.
Oh,
It's exactly like that.
All the United States team captains get the knowledge of future captains, and I appear as a spirit for them.
Pretty
Anyways,
much, yeah.
completely off topic, but we are seeing Helloson and Dev in for this Rise 5 pick. We don't see any swap outs. Chubichan, Triodon, and Razuna staying in for Vietnam. So we're going to have to see if they're going to be able to take it on for this Rise 5 pick. They had a really great performance on that Rise 3. This is definitely the type of map that I think these three players could hold on very strong with. It just is about whether they're going to be able to keep up with the accuracy and consistency of the United States. If we see some accuracy drops or some misses from the United States, definitely this is the type of map that Vietnam could take in this situation.
100%. And I think this map probably most closely represents Toki. If I had to take a gander in the past maps that have been picked, it has that weird techie. It's light tech. It has some long jacks that we've seen before. Lots of trills, lots of bursts. But can Vietnam really hold up to all of that? The madness that is this map. Is everyone able to securely power through all of the patterns?
Yeah, and we're already well past 400, around 700 combo. We see a little bit of an accuracy drop from the Vietnamese side. Triodon and Razuna both below 99.9. All other players holding strong there. But the United States just on another level right now.
Yeah, they're holding on to that accuracy like their life depends on it. And, I mean, all three players at above a 99.9, whereas on Vietnam, they're a step below on the ladder. They're at a 99.8.
Oh.
But Dev, big miss from them at the end of that pattern, and it's halfway in, means that Vietnam, murmurs of a comeback start to rumble.
Yeah, match debut for Dev shows a miss, but Triodon going to trade that pretty quickly back in the United States. Fortunately, going to find the lead back in their favor by quite a significant margin. That miss by Triodon much, much bigger than what we saw from Dev. Triodon down to 9.73. Dev staying well above 99.8 right now. And Triodon finding a second miss as we get into the last quarter of the map is going to help the United States have quite a bit of wiggle room here.
Yeah, those murmurs that I talked about of a comeback instantly silenced by the United States and turned into a deafening roar of 17,000 points for them as a lead, and final patterns are coming up. Nothing unlike you've seen throughout this map, as the United States holding on yet again onto their accuracy, absolutely boasting how much better they are on Rice, and Vietnam was the one to challenge them, time and time again throughout this set. United States stepping up to the plate and showing them how it's done. And boy, is the United States doing it in style with a team score like this.
Yeah, absolutely absurd on attack big 2.987 mil. No big deal. Not quite triple three-way.
Oh boy.
Not quite a triple double S. Dev with a 100 and a miss, but no 200s across the board. No Chubichan with a double S as well, but the misses from Triodon Gaming enough to keep United States in the lead there and bring the United States to match point, though it is on Vietnam's pick. And Rice 7 comes out immediately. Vietnam rolling the dice, looking like they want to try and get a pick on Rice. And if the United States takes this would be a full Rice matchup. Would be interesting to see, but Vietnam has been close multiple times so far. I'm interested to see how they're able to take this, especially with how short this is.
Very, very interesting to see them pull out Toki right after Grosso's Castle. But I mean, Vietnam, I think, still really just trying to go for that angle where they want to make United States a little bit uncomfortable, maybe hope for a miss while all three can FC. And with how some of these points have been going in this match, it feels like that's their only route to victory.
I mean, they've got to start somewhere, right? And so far, the only picks so far in this match have been Rice. If this does go Vietnam's way, there's only one Rice pick remaining, and it's Rice 6. It's Rice 4, which I don't know if either of these two teams would want to play.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I think the United States would feel comfortable, but not necessarily perfect about it. It's based on accuracy, and it's jacks, and everyone's good at jacks nowadays. So you got to kind of think about that. But this one certainly will close out the big, like, strong Rice picks for either of these two teams. And it'd be interesting to see where the United States goes after this if the Vietnamese team is able to perform. We don't see any swap outs from them. We do see Minwoo come in for the United States here. But Vietnam trying to stay alive in the winner's bracket with this Toki Mateable remix selection. This is their last opportunity to try and get something going. Need to get momentum in their favor. Not much left after this, but they're going to have to take this plus 4 more picks after this if they want to even make it to the tiebreaker. Has to start somewhere.
Tall task for them, but this is the start of possibly the journey, and Vietnam obviously wanting to continue with that Cinderella story. They had such a good win over Vietnam. Sorry, against Thailand last week.
Vietnam beat Vietnam.
Yep. But no, they just had a really good win over Thailand last week, and obviously they were tasked with facing one of the toughest, if not the toughest opponent in MWC for this week. But they've been doing fine. It's just they haven't been able to reel it in. Small little margins just keep adding up, and you think back to where Vietnam accidentally I say accidentally, but they unfortunately lost at the end of Endro, and it really makes you think how this match could be maybe a little bit more different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they take that point, and we could even see pick strategies start to change for the United States and Vietnam. But for now, Vietnam down 5-0, holding on to all the combos so far, but accuracy a little bit far behind right now as the United States hold about a 4,000 point lead. Already 2/3 of the way through this, only a minute and a half of this map available total, and everyone's still holding on to the combos. Tree to win, though, going to be the first break as the United States extends that lead to almost 20,000 points extremely quickly. And this map coming to a close very quickly. Truden find another break. Now Chubi-Chen matching it as well as the United States holds on to a triple full combo. And this map just coming further and further away as the United States going to take a dominant finish to this match on Rice 7 with a 6-0 sweep against the Vietnamese team to make it into winter semis. Okay, no.
Wow.
No, hold on. That's a good performance. I did not think it was a triple-double S. No.
This is quarterfinals United States. Come on now.
It's
what
not
is
even
going
just
on?
quarterfinals. It's this map.
Yeah, it's this
map.
No,
I think this is the only one they did it for. They didn't do it on Rice 2 or Rice 3, the ones that are supposedly easier to get good accuracy on. What is that score?
There's something in the GMOs or something of the every kid's died in America, or
it has
something
to be.
going on.
The microplastics are
right?
making them better at Mania at this point. What are we doing? United States taking the 6-0 sweep, moving on to the winner semifinals to face off against Chile next week. That's going to be a banger match. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, that is very much going to be on everyone's radars. But no, GGWP to both the United States and Vietnam. Vietnam putting up a very good fight. Almost struck in some places of uncertainty for the United States, but just could not convert. Got a couple matches left in the weekend, starting off with Thailand and Japan in 4 hours, so a little bit of a break for you guys. But we had a little bit of a break earlier in the match and got cut off, unfortunately, by Boncho. Toph, did you want to resume what was going on then?
I would love to resume what I was saying. I was so rudely interrupted by the match going on. Why would they do that to me? But I've got to talk about the banners that we can buy from the Osu store. Go to the Osu store if you want to support any of the 32 teams that made it into bracket stage. You can go to the Osu store, pick one up for any of them, even if they've already been eliminated from the tournament, and you'll get a shiny banner to show off on your profile page. It'll look wonderful. It'll show that you're supporting the teams and the tournament. And on top of that, if you buy the banner for the team that ends up winning the 4Key World Cup this year, you'll get to keep that banner on your profile until next year's iteration. On top of that, you can buy multiple banners. So if you don't want to play the odds, you can just buy all 32 banners to make sure you know you have that extra banner staying until next year's 4Key World Cup iteration. How does that sound, Dynasty?
That sounds awesome, and it sounds so great that I've already purchased a banner for the United States. Hope that they win this year. If not, I'll be sure to buy a couple more banners in the coming weeks to really secure my predictions and have that swag on my profile.
Gotta have the swag. Don't hesitate to buy your banners. But like Dynascape said, we've got a little bit of a break here. 4 hours from now at 8 UTC, we'll be starting our I guess not starting our Sunday block, but continuing our Sunday block of matches with Thailand, Japan, followed by the end of our weekend for the rest of our Sunday. We will see you guys then.